The grounds around Nick Chopper's new house were laid out in pretty flower beds, with fountains of crystal water and statues of tin, representing the Emperor's personal friends. Dorothy was astonished and delighted to find a tin statue of herself standing on a tin pedestal at a bend in the avenue leading up to the entrance. It was life-size and showed her in her sunbonnet with her basket on her arm, just as she had first appeared in the Land of Oz. "Oh, Toto, you're there too!" she exclaimed, and sure enough, there was the tin figure of Toto lying at the tin Dorothy's feet. Also, Dorothy saw figures of the Scarecrow and the Wizard and Ozma and of many others, including Tik-Tok. They reached the grand tin entrance to the Tin Castle, and the Tin Woodman himself came running out of the door to embrace little Dorothy and give her a glad welcome. He welcomed her friends as well, and the Rainbow's Daughter he declared to be the loveliest vision his tin eyes had ever beheld. He patted Button-Bright's curly head tenderly, for he was fond of children, and turned to the Shaggy Man and shook both his hands at the same time. Nick Chopper, the Emperor of the Winkies, who was also known throughout the Land of Oz as the Tin Woodman, was certainly a remarkable person. He was neatly made, all of tin, nicely soldered at the joints, and his various limbs were cleverly hinged to his body so that he could use them nearly as well as if they had been common flesh. Once, he told the Shaggy Man, he had been made all of flesh and bones, as other people are, and then he chopped wood in the forests to earn his living. But the axe slipped so often and cut off parts of him, which he had replaced with tin, that finally there was no flesh left, nothing but tin, so he became a real Tin Woodman. The wonderful Wizard of Oz had given him an excellent heart to replace his old one, and he didn't at all mind being tin. Everyone loved him, he loved everyone, and he was therefore as happy as the day was long. The Emperor was proud of his new tin castle and showed his visitors through all the rooms. Every bit of the furniture was made of brightly polished tin, the tables, chairs, beds, and all, even the floors and walls were of tin. "I suppose," said he, "that there are no cleverer tinsmiths in all the world than the Winkies. It would be hard to match this castle in Kansas, wouldn't it, little Dorothy?" "Very hard," replied the child gravely. "It must have cost a lot of money," remarked the Shaggy Man. "Money? Money in Oz?" cried the Tin Woodman. "What a curious idea! Did you suppose we are so vulgar as to use money here?" "Why not?" asked the Shaggy Man. "If we used money to buy things with, instead of love and kindness and the desire to please one another, then we should be no better than the rest of the world," declared the Tin Woodman. "Fortunately, money is not known in the Land of Oz at all. We have no rich and no poor, for what one wishes, the others all try to give him in order to make him happy, and no one in Oz cares to have more than he can use." "Good!" cried the Shaggy Man, greatly pleased to hear this. "I also despise money. A man in Butterfield owes me 15 cents, and I will not take it from him. The Land of Oz is surely the most favored land in all the world, and its people the happiest. I should like to live here always." The Tin Woodman listened with respectful attention. Already he loved the Shaggy Man, although he did not yet know of the love magnet. So he said, "If you can prove to the Princess Ozma that you are honest and true and worthy of our friendship, you may indeed live here all your days and be as happy as we are." "I'll try to prove that," said the Shaggy Man earnestly. "And now," continued the Emperor, "you must all go to your rooms and prepare for dinner, which will presently be served in the grand tin dining hall. I am sorry, Shaggy Man, that I cannot offer you a change of clothing, but I dress only in tin myself, and I suppose that would not suit you." "I care little about dress," said the Shaggy Man indifferently. "So I should imagine," replied the Emperor with true politeness. They were shown to their rooms and permitted to make such toilets as they could, and soon they assembled again in the grand tin dining hall, even Toto being present, for the Emperor was fond of Dorothy's little dog, and the girl explained to her friends that in Oz all animals were treated with as much consideration as the people, if they behaved themselves, she added. Toto behaved himself and sat in a tin high chair beside Dorothy and ate his dinner from a tin platter. Indeed, they all ate from tin dishes, but these were of pretty shapes and brightly polished. Dorothy thought they were just as good as silver. Button-Bright looked curiously at the man who had no appetite inside him, for the Tin Woodman, although he had prepared so fine a feast for his guests, ate not a mouthful himself, sitting patiently in his place to see that all built so they could eat were well and plentifully served. What pleased Button-Bright most about the dinner was the tin orchestra that played sweet music while the company ate. The players were not tin, being just ordinary Winkies, but the instruments they played upon were all tin trumpets, tin fiddles, tin drums and cymbals and flutes and horns and all. They played so nicely the Shining Emperor Waltz, composed expressly in honor of the Tin Woodman by Mr. H.M. Wogglebug, T.E., that Polly could not resist dancing to it. After she had tasted a few dewdrops, freshly gathered for her, she danced gracefully to the music while the others finished their repast, and when she whirled until her fleecy draperies of rainbow hues enveloped her like a cloud, the Tin Woodman was so delighted that he clapped his tin hands until the noise of them drowned the sound of the cymbals. Altogether it was a merry meal, although Polychrome ate little and the host nothing at all. "I'm sorry the Rainbow's daughter missed her mist cakes," said the Tin Woodman to Dorothy, "but by a mistake Miss Polly's mist cakes were mislaid and not missed until now. I'll try to have some for her breakfast." They spent the evening telling stories, and the next morning left the splendid Tin Castle and set out upon the road to the Emerald City. The Tin Woodman went with them, of course, having by this time been so brightly polished that he sparkled like silver. His axe, which he always carried with him, had a steel blade that was tin-plated and a handle covered with tin plate beautifully engraved and set with diamonds. The Winkies assembled before the castle gates and cheered their emperor as he marched away, and it was easy to see that they all loved him dearly. Visiting the pumpkin field, Dorothy let Button-Bright wind up the clockwork in the Copper Man this morning, his thinking machine first, then his speech, and finally his action, so he would doubtless run perfectly until they had reached the Emerald City. The Copper Man and the Tin Man were good friends, and not so much alike as you might think, for one was alive and the other moved by means of machinery. One was tall and angular, and the other short and round. You could love the Tin Woodman because he had a fine nature, kindly and simple, but the Machine Man you could only admire without loving, since to love such a thing as he was as impossible as to love a sewing machine or an automobile. Yet Tik-Tok was popular with the people of Oz because he was so trustworthy, reliable, and true. He was sure to do exactly what he was wound up to do, at all times and in all circumstances. Perhaps it is better to be a machine that does its duty than a flesh-and-blood person who will not, for a dead truth is better than a live falsehood. About noon, the travelers reached a large field of pumpkins, a vegetable quite appropriate to the yellow country of the Winkies, and some of the pumpkins which grew there were of remarkable size. Just before they entered upon this field, they saw 3 little mounds that looked like graves, with a pretty headstone to each one of them. "What is this?" asked Dorothy in wonder. "It's Jack Pumpkinhead's private graveyard," replied the Tin Woodman. "But I thought nobody ever died in Oz," she said. Dorothy ran over to the little graves and read the words engraved upon the tombstones. The first one said, "Here lies the mortal part of Jack Pumpkinhead, which spoiled April 9th. She then went to the next stone, which read, "Here lies the mortal part of Jack Pumpkinhead, which spoiled October 2nd. On the third stone were carved these words, "Here lies the mortal part of Jack Pumpkinhead, which spoiled January 24th. "Poor Jack," sighed Dorothy. "I'm sorry he had to die in 3 parts, for I hope to see him again." "So you shall," declared the Tin Woodman, "since he is still alive. Come with me to his house, for Jack is now a farmer and lives in this very pumpkin field." They walked over to a monstrous big hollow pumpkin with a door and windows cut through the rind. There was a stovepipe running through the stem, and 6 steps had been built leading up to the front door. They walked up to this door and looked in. Seated on a bench was a man clothed in a spotted shirt, a red vest, and faded blue trousers, whose body was merely sticks of wood, jointed clumsily together. On his neck was set a round, yellow pumpkin, with a face carved on it such as a boy often carves on a jack-lantern. This queer man was engaged in snapping slippery pumpkin seeds with his wooden fingers, trying to hit a target on the other side of the room with them. He did not know he had visitors until Dorothy exclaimed, "Why, it's Jack Pumpkinhead himself!" He turned and saw them, and at once came forward to greet the little Kansas girl and Nick Chopper, and to be introduced to their new friends. Button-Bright was at first rather shy with the quaint Pumpkinhead, But Jack's face was so jolly and smiling, being carved that way, that the boy soon grew to like him. "I thought a while ago that you were buried in 3 parts," said Dorothy, "but now I see you're just the same as ever." "Not quite the same, my dear, for my mouth is a little more one-sided than it used to be, but pretty nearly the same. I've a new head, and this is the 4th one I've owned since Ozma first made me and brought me to life by sprinkling me with the magic powder." "What became of the other heads, Jack?" "They spoiled, and I buried them, for they were not even fit for pies. Each time Ozma has carved me a new head just like the old one, and as my body is by far the largest part of me, I am still Jack Pumpkinhead, no matter how often I change my upper end. Once we had a dreadful time to find another pumpkin, as they were out of season, and so I was obliged to wear my old head a little longer than was strictly healthy. But after this sad experience, I resolved to raise pumpkins myself, so as never to be caught again with one handy, and now I have this fine field that you see before you. Some grow pretty big, too big to be used for heads, so I dug out this one and use it for a house." "Isn't it damp?" asked Dorothy. "Not very. There isn't much left but the shell, you see, and it will last a long time yet." "I think you are brighter than you used to be, Jack," said the Tin Woodman. "Your last head was a stupid one." "The seeds in this one are better," was the reply. "Are you going to Ozma's party?" asked Dorothy. "Yes," said he. "I wouldn't miss it for anything. Ozma's my parent, you know, because she built my body and carved my pumpkin head. I'll follow you to the Emerald City tomorrow, where we shall meet again. I can't go today because I have to plant fresh pumpkin seeds and water the young vines. But give my love to Ozma and tell her I'll be there in time for the jubilation." "We will," she promised, and then they all left him and resumed their journey.